In the heart of a silent government building nestled within the capital, the sound of polished shoes echoed against marble floors. 8 men and women, dressed in the crisp suits of power, were escorted out by armed guards. The arrests sent immediate shockwaves through the political and intelligence communities. These were no ordinary officials. They were high-ranking operatives, long trusted within the inner circles of the state. Their crime? Operating a hidden information network built deep within the government itself, a parallel system designed to manipulate, deceive, and control narratives for purposes unknown to the public. But for those paying attention, this wasn't a surprise. Whispers had grown louder in recent months. Journalists silenced, digital trails erased, intelligence officers transferred without reason, and now the truth was undeniable. What had once been dismissed as conspiracy had taken form, and someone had finally decided it was time to act. Before we delve deeper into this gripping story, make sure to subscribe to our channel for more exclusive investigations and critical insights that you won't find anywhere else. The person at the center of this storm wasn't a politician from within the system, it was Captain Ibrahim Traoré. The young, resolute leader had risen with a promise to cleanse his government of corruption, no matter the cost. Many doubted him at first, viewing him as just another revolutionary with temporary fire. But today, Traoré was making it clear. He wasn't here to negotiate with rot. He was here to cut it out entirely. It began with a quiet signal. An anonymous tip led to a cluster of documents hidden inside a government computer. Traoré's cyber intelligence unit, still in its infancy, pounced. The files revealed the existence of encrypted communication threads among a select group of officials. At first, they assumed it was espionage, external sabotage, but as they traced the data trails, a different, more alarming picture formed. The network wasn't foreign. It was born here. Carefully built by insiders over the course of 5 years, it had one purpose: to reroute and distort classified information, feeding false intelligence to decision-makers and intercepting whistleblower attempts before they reached the surface. It was the ultimate firewall against truth. Despite initial resistance from older generals and institutional skeptics, Traoré launched a covert probe. He knew time was limited. If word leaked, the network would vanish. Working with a small circle of loyal intelligence officers, he began mapping connections, identifying patterns, and watching movements. Every false report filed, every mysteriously altered directive, they all pointed toward the same internal core. Then came the breakthrough. A junior data analyst flagged an anomaly: duplicated reports with contradicting content sent to 2 separate departments within minutes of each other. That's when Traoré acted. In one coordinated sweep, the suspects were seized from their offices. Shock registered across the nation. Media outlets scrambled for statements, opposition leaders called for transparency, and the military brass went silent. The question on everyone's mind: how deep did this go? And yet, even as the headlines blazed with accusations and reactions, Traoré remained focused. He had touched the surface, but he knew this was only the beginning. The system had protected itself for years. One operation wouldn't unravel everything, but the message had been sent. Still, danger lurked in every direction. Those arrested held secrets, and some still had influence. Traoré's resolve would now be tested in the harshest way, because cutting the head of the snake was only part of the mission. He had to ensure it didn't grow another. The deeper he dug, the more tangled the web became. To be continued. The arrests had made headlines, but the true scale of the operation was still concealed beneath layers of encryption, silence, and fear. As interrogations began behind closed doors, Ibrahim Traoré's team worked tirelessly to process the digital evidence recovered from confiscated devices. What they found shattered any remaining illusions. This wasn't a rogue group acting on personal interest. It was a coordinated, disciplined operation, embedded at the highest levels. One file, buried deep within a corrupted drive, revealed internal memos doctored to distort intelligence assessments. Another cache included falsified foreign correspondence, making it appear as if international threats were looming, where none existed. These deceptions had shaped policies, diverted funds, and silenced opposition. The parallel network didn't just observe the state, it influenced it. Stay updated on this unfolding story by subscribing to our channel now. We bring you closer to the truth than anyone else dares. Traoré knew he was facing something far more dangerous than political dissent. This was a system within the system, a structure designed to outlive administrations and control the narrative from within. They weren't just hiding information, they were manufacturing reality. The psychological toll of this revelation began to weigh on his inner circle. Who could they still trust? Had they been manipulated all along? The team's analysis revealed the mechanics of the network: layers of burner accounts, encrypted messaging apps, data obfuscation tools, and strategic leaks. Key figures within the state media unknowingly reported information planted by operatives. It wasn't about ideology, it was about control. The network thrived on confusion, making the truth malleable and malleability their weapon. Every detail led to more questions. Why had no one stopped this sooner? Who had protected these individuals for so long? And most of all, was the rot limited to the 8 arrested, or was that merely the beginning? For Traoré, the fight was now deeply personal. Having risen from the ranks of the people, his promise had always been to protect the nation from decay. But standing at the helm, he was beginning to feel the full weight of institutional resistance. Some senior officials began questioning his authority quietly, calling for restraint, negotiation, or independent review committees. It was the language of fear disguised as diplomacy. Worse still, someone close to him, a former ally instrumental in his rise, was now implicated. Not through direct evidence, but through association. Communications, meetings, and unaccounted transactions were beginning to form a shadow that threatened to divide his leadership. Traoré refused to jump to conclusions, but the doubt gnawed at him. If infiltration reached this far, then even his inner circle could not be spared scrutiny. Paranoia crept into the ranks. Meetings became shorter, conversations more guarded. Every decision now carried a hidden cost, the balance between exposure and stability. And yet the mission couldn't pause. The public, sensing something far greater unfolding, began to demand answers. Protests erupted, not against Traoré but against the silence. They wanted transparency, proof, reassurance. But he knew releasing half-truths too soon could collapse the investigation, giving time for others to disappear, destroy evidence, or sway public sentiment. He needed time, but time in politics is a currency that vanishes the moment weakness is perceived. And so, while the nation held its breath, Traoré pressed on, quietly, methodically. Every document was a puzzle, every ally a potential liability. Every hour, the line between justice and self-destruction grew thinner. The web was unraveling, thread by thread. But with each thread pulled, the danger only multiplied. To be continued. A week into the investigation, a breakthrough emerged that changed everything. During a meticulous review of the network's communications, one name kept resurfacing, not among the arrested, but always at the edge, masked through proxies and aliases. Each digital fingerprint, each redirected message, each falsified report seemed to trace back to a single hidden coordinator. Ibrahim Traoré's team referred to this entity only as the architect. For days they worked in silence, triangulating movements, reconstructing deleted data, connecting faces to signatures. The tension was suffocating. Then came confirmation. An intercepted message, hastily encrypted, sent hours before the first arrests. Its contents left no room for doubt. The mastermind wasn't hiding in some foreign embassy or remote location. He was here, embedded in a key national department, operating with the quiet arrogance of someone convinced he'd never be found. Don't miss the latest developments. Subscribe to our channel for real-time updates and full breakdowns of this unprecedented case. Traoré ordered immediate surveillance. No arrest, not yet. He wanted answers before action. Days of observation revealed the man's rhythm, guarded conversations, multiple phones, documents transferred via secure couriers. When he finally summoned the suspect to a private debriefing under pretense of cooperation, the tension in the room was unbearable. The man arrived with calm confidence, denying everything with a straight face. But Traoré had prepared. One by one, he presented the fragments: files, timestamps, message headers, financial trails. At first, the suspect scoffed. Then his silence grew. His breathing shifted. For a moment, he met Traoré's gaze, and what passed between them was not guilt, it was calculation. "You can't stop it," the man finally said, voice steady. "This system was here before you. It will be here after." That sentence chilled the room more than any confession could. It was the climax Traoré feared and expected. The arrest was swift. The impact was immediate. For the public, this was a sign of justice prevailing. For Traoré's enemies, it was a declaration of war. In the following hours, conflicting narratives began to emerge. Some news outlets, clearly influenced, questioned the legitimacy of the evidence. Politicians started demanding oversight. Pro-government demonstrations were met with orchestrated doubt campaigns online. The fight had entered a new phase, not just against individuals, but against perception itself. Within the intelligence community, confidence cracked. Some officers grew hesitant, afraid of being next. Others, emboldened, rallied behind Traoré. It was a time of sharp lines and sharper decisions. No one could afford neutrality now. But the real jolt came when a separate department, unconnected to the initial investigation, accidentally discovered a cache of documents misplaced during a server migration. They revealed detailed influence operations dating back years, showing how the network had infiltrated external organizations, manipulated diplomatic reports, and altered international briefings. This wasn't just a domestic issue anymore. As Traoré read through the first pages of the newly found archive, a sinking realization took hold. The network's ambition had never been limited to internal control. It had global implications. The names listed in the contacts were no longer confined to one flag. This was bigger, far bigger than he had imagined. But for now, the pressure was local. He needed to restore control of the narrative. The truth had to be stabilized before it could be expanded. What he didn't know yet was that this discovery would pull him onto a much broader battlefield, one where international alliances, hidden agendas, and years of buried deception awaited. The sealed archive discovered by accident proved to be more than a set of internal memos. It contained correspondence logs, funding trails, and encrypted communications between operatives inside the government and external actors, some tied to foreign NGOs, others to ambiguous consulting firms with offshore headquarters. The documents were a silent explosion, exposing a web that extended far beyond national borders. What had begun as an internal purge now edged into the dangerous terrain of international consequence. Within hours of the leak being flagged, embassies in the capital began requesting closed-door meetings. Certain diplomatic channels went silent, while others erupted with alarm. What had once been a quiet domestic investigation had become a geopolitical storm. Ensure you don't miss any international updates. Subscribe to our channel today for real-time insights on the most complex global stories. Ibrahim Traoré convened an emergency session with his closest advisors. The evidence was clear, but the stakes had shifted. This wasn't just about exposing criminals anymore. It was about preserving national sovereignty in the face of external manipulation. The network's reach had been underestimated. Its operatives weren't only steering internal narratives, they were shaping how the country was seen abroad, influencing policy recommendations, trade negotiations, and even security partnerships. Leaders from regional blocs issued cautious statements. Allies offered quiet support, but none were willing to go on record. Foreign media began covering the events, but not always with the same interpretation. In some outlets, Traoré was praised as a defender of truth. In others, he was painted as a destabilizing force, cracking down on dissent in the name of reform. The conflicting narratives weren't accidental. Traoré's intelligence team uncovered social media bots and troll farms pushing coordinated messaging. The fingerprints matched groups identified in the archive. This was a hybrid war, digital, political, psychological. The network had anticipated this possibility. Now it was playing its final cards in public view. At home, Traoré faced a balancing act. He needed to confront these revelations without triggering diplomatic fallout that could cripple the economy. Quiet channels were opened with key foreign governments. Some cooperated, others deflected. A few denied any connection, despite names and communications clearly indicating otherwise. During this tense phase, Traoré's leadership was tested like never before. Trusted ministers wavered. Some urged a full blackout of the information. Others wanted to release everything to the public in one sweeping press conference. But Traoré chose a different path: measured exposure. Truth, piece by piece, backed by evidence and timing. Not to manipulate, but to disarm chaos. Meanwhile, an unexpected event shifted the momentum. A former operative from the network, now in exile, reached out through intermediaries. He was willing to testify, on one condition: immunity. Traoré considered it carefully. Granting immunity to someone deeply involved would be a bitter pill, but the information he held could unlock the full extent of the network's foreign coordination. The cost of silence might be higher than the price of compromise. The decision weighed heavily, but time was no longer an ally. The arrangement was made in secret. The testimony, when delivered, was devastating. It confirmed what Traoré had feared. Certain international development funds had been funneled through shell organizations to finance misinformation campaigns and political manipulation. This wasn't just a hidden hand. It was a directed effort to control the country's trajectory from afar. As this truth surfaced, one question remained unanswered: who had authorized it? The answer, if found, could fracture long-standing alliances. But for now, the country stood on the edge. Truth in one hand, diplomacy in the other. Weeks passed since the network was dismantled, but the echoes of its existence lingered across every institution. The testimonies had been reviewed, cross-examined and verified. The intelligence reports were consolidated, and the government's internal security apparatus was restructured under new oversight protocols. Traoré, through relentless resolve, had pulled the truth from beneath layers of silence, deceit and fear. The most critical piece, a comprehensive timeline of the network's activities, was declassified and released publicly. It chronicled years of manipulation, showing how decisions had been skewed, voices silenced, and foreign interests protected at the expense of national well-being. The clarity was painful, but necessary. For more in-depth analyses and powerful stories like this one, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and click on the video suggestion on your screen to continue exploring the untold realities shaping our world. The public reaction was immediate. Protests shifted from confusion to empowerment. Citizens demanded institutional reform, and for the first time in years, trust in leadership began to rebuild. Traoré addressed the nation with measured conviction, outlining new transparency laws, independent oversight mechanisms, and protections for whistleblowers. He promised not just punishment for the guilty, but protection for the honest. Some international voices remained critical, clinging to narratives shaped by embarrassment or fear of implication, but many others adjusted their stance, acknowledging the bravery of confronting such entrenched corruption. What had begun as a potential diplomatic disaster evolved into a call for shared vigilance. Internally, Traoré didn't celebrate. He had won a battle, but he understood the war against corruption, deception, and foreign interference was never truly over. Still, this chapter had closed with clarity. The network was broken, its structure dismantled, its influence exposed. He returned to his daily work with renewed focus. The same streets that had once whispered doubts about his leadership now echoed with cautious hope. He remained vigilant, understanding that systems do not heal overnight, but he also understood the deeper value of his fight, not just justice, but memory. The people had to remember, not in fear, but in wisdom, how easily truth could be buried, and how vital it was to protect it. Around him, younger leaders began stepping forward, inspired not by power, but by purpose. Traoré saw in them the potential for a new generation of governance, one that understood technology, not as a tool for surveillance, but as a shield for integrity, one that didn't flinch when facing uncomfortable truths. He didn't need to lead forever, he just needed to ensure the next would lead better. In quiet moments, he reflected on the sentence spoken by the man once called the architect. This system was here before you. It will be here after. He had thought it a threat, but now it felt more like a warning, a challenge, and he had answered it. He hadn't erased the system, but he had changed it, made it visible, fallible, vulnerable to exposure. And that perhaps was the first true victory. So the story closes, not with finality but with continuity, a nation wounded but healing, a people once misled, now awake, and a leader once doubted, now proven, not perfect but unyielding in purpose. Thank you for joining us through this journey. For more investigations and stories that matter, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. And if you want to keep exploring, click on the suggested video now appearing on your screen. Truth is never easy, but it's always worth the fight.